Your Excellency, with your permission, allow me to invite the PA's National Treasury, Dr. Kmrc, to give us a welcome remark.
Let me start by thanking all of you for honoring our invitation and joining us for this official launch of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. Today's launch of the Kmrc marks an important milestone in our financial markets, as the company is expected to play a critical role of deepening the primary mortgage market through its intermediation activities. As you are aware, Kmrc will play a very significant role in the affordable housing pillar of the Big Four agenda by availing affordable credit to participating financial institutions, which will be extended to eligible borrowers for housing finance purposes. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the idea of forming a liquidity facility of this kind is a culmination of various discussions on how to address constraints hindering the growth of the mortgage market in Kenya. The National Treasury therefore sought support from the World Bank to provide technical assistance in the realization of this initiative. We indeed commend the World Bank for supporting us and especially sharing the international perspective that enabled us to set up an institution comparable to those of other parts of the world. As you are aware, the National Treasury set up the Kmrc purposely as a public-private partnership arrangement with majority private sector owned. In this regard, we carried out a successful shareholders' equity mobilization, with the National Treasury providing the initial Kenya shillings 1 billion, which was used to catalyze about Kenya shillings 1.2 billion private sector funds. I'm delighted to note that following significant shareholder engagement last year, the company is now 80% owned by various prudentially regulated financial institutions and 20% owned by the government through the National Treasury. The financial institution comprised 8 commercial banks, 1 microfinance bank, and 11 SACCOs. We also have 2 development finance institutions, namely Shelter Afrique and the IFC, who are in the process of finalizing due diligence with anticipated equity investment in the company. The strong participation by the above institutions is commendable and a true testament of the confidence that the government, the private sector, and the development financial institutions have on this initiative. At the moment, there is little standardization of loan underwriting, documentation, or even servicing procedures in Kenya. In this regard, Kmrc operations would contribute to the improvement of lending practices in Kenya and incentivize standardization of terms and conditions among the various lenders. By having diverse financial institutions participating in this initiative, it is expected that product innovation will be enhanced through competition, leading to improved offerings in the market and wider customer choice. We look forward to the newly formed board of the Kmrc to assume the governance responsibilities and playing its rightful role in steering Kmrc to achieve its strategic objectives. With that, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure to invite the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Planning, Mr. James Macharia, to make his remarks. I thank you very much.
Your Excellency, let me take this opportunity to thank the World Bank and other partners for supporting this key sector of housing, and more so, the sector of informal settlements. Your Excellency, this support by the World Bank goes back to 2011, when we initiated what we called the Kenya Informal Settlements Project, KISIP 1, and where the World Bank pledged and committed $100 million out of the total of $165 million US. Your Excellency, this program has helped a lot in terms of supporting infrastructure in the informal settlements, that's the slums. Through this program, We've also got security of tenure for various properties within the informal settlements. And so far, we have issued 25,000 titles to date. Your Excellency, we are also pleased that the World Bank has supported us through the Kenya Urban Support Program, which is geared towards supporting the affordable housing scheme. To date, the World Bank has disbursed 11.1 billion shillings to support the infrastructure in 45 counties, 45 excluding Nairobi and Mombasa. And so now with Kmrc, it confirms, Excellency, that no sector or subsector will be left out and no one will be left behind. Let me also say, Excellency, that this launch is very timely. In a sense, it's coming when the first ever UN Habitat Assembly will be held in Nairobi next week. It could not have been more timely. And so, Excellency, we are delighted with the support of the partners in the private sector. I see a lot of my former colleagues here in the banking sector, and I believe together we shall make sure we have a very robust housing sector in this country. With those remarks, let me welcome my colleague, C.S. Rotich, to make his remarks.
I'm very pleased to welcome you, Your Excellency, to grace this official launch of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, Kmrc. Thank you for finding time in your busy schedule to be with us today. My task is simple, to welcome you to address this gathering. But before I do that, Your Excellency, allow me to spend just 3 minutes to say a few words. Today, we are gathered here to witness the launch and operationalization of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, Kmrc. Your Excellency, Kmrc has come to being as a result of the collaboration with the private sector. It is a non-deposit taking financial institution that will be supervised by the Central Bank of Kenya. The Central Bank has already finalized the specialized regulations that is currently being prepared by the Attorney General. Your Excellency, Kmrc's objective is to support affordability of mortgages by Kenyans by providing more long-term funding to financial institutions, otherwise known as primary mortgage lenders. We expect the incentive to financial institutions will enable them to offer long tenure loans to home buyers in Kenya. As you are aware, Your Excellency, housing in Kenya is currently too expensive for most Kenyans due to the cost of financing and also the short-term nature and the high cost of properties. Kmrc has come at the right time to take advantage of our very vibrant private sector and resources and to help achieve Your Excellency's Big Four plan by providing affordable housing to Kenyans. This will make our growth more inclusive and reduce the proliferation of slums. Currently, Your Excellency, as you know, commercial banks in Kenya hold only about 26,000 mortgages in a population of over 45 million. This clearly is not tenable for a country that is entering middle income status and aspiring to be an emerging market sooner than later. The low mortgage penetration is because of liability mismatch, where there are more short-term deposits in Kenya that makes long-term lending by commercial banks and SACCOs unattractive. Therefore, Kmrc will help to correct this problem and increase the number of mortgages in the middle to long term. Your Excellency, I want to assure you that we have the right conditions for the Kmrc to succeed. As you are aware, we have preserved a stable macroeconomic environment with low inflation, stable interest rates, and exchange rates. In addition, we also have a very well organized and developed capital markets and financial institutions that are active in housing finance. Your Excellency, there's no doubt, as per the Big Four agenda, the focus on affordable housing will have a strong positive impact on the economy, given its linkage with other sectors. We therefore expect more new jobs to be created with the affordable housing program. Finally, Your Excellency, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues at the National Treasury, the Central Bank of Kenya, development partners, particularly the World Bank and African Development Bank, and the private sector who are present here today for the superb job in getting Kmrc established for the launch today. So, Your Excellency, with those few remarks, it's now my humble pleasure to welcome you to give your keynote address and officially launch Kmrc. Welcome, Your Excellency.
I note with much appreciation this initiative is a partnership between the Kenya government and private sector, and it demonstrates the possibilities of the growing synergy between the private sector and the government towards the delivery of public goods. There is no doubt at all that we are making progress in the quest for the transformation of the lives of our people. And I believe that this groundbreaking initiative only adds the momentum to our quest to enhance access to affordable housing for all. As we continue to experience the dividends of our growing population, the housing supply has over the years not kept pace with the concurrent growth in the demand for houses. And as a result, this has led to a huge housing deficit, particularly for the low-income households. In response to the compelling needs, therefore, of our fellow citizens under our Big Four agenda, we are making deliberate interventions in the housing sector to make it more responsive to middle and lower income segments of our population. The intervention is based on our recognition that reaching the goal of adequate, safe, and affordable housing for all, especially the lower income group, requires a fundamental rethinking of the traditional approach used in the past. A new approach is now required, one that establishes the right legal, regulatory, and market environment for the efficient deployment of private as well as public capital. Ladies and gentlemen, today a number of institutions are now in the mortgage sector, including banks, microfinance banks, savings and credit, cooperative organizations, SACCOs. And according to the Central Bank of Kenya, the total outstanding mortgage debt in 2017 stood at about 223 billion shillings. This, however, represents only about 2.7% of GDP, which shows clearly that in Kenya, the industry is still very small. South Africa, as an example, boasts of a mortgage sector accounting for approximately 31% of its GDP. Housing mortgage finance in Kenya, therefore, remains well below its potential. The major inhibiting factors to this growth in Kenya include lack of access to long-term finance, high interest rates on mortgages, high costs of houses, high incidental costs of mortgages, low levels of income, and difficulties with property registration and titling. This seminal initiative that we are launching today is a policy response to some of the barriers that hinder access to affordable housing. We recently rolled out the policy framework that will guide the transformation of the housing sector. On the financing side, the government has been supporting initiatives aimed at developing innovative instruments to address the housing finance challenges. Establishment of the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company that we launched today is the highlight of these initiatives. In addition, our National Treasury, in consultation with other key stakeholders, is developing a credit guarantee scheme. Once operational, it will support a large proportion of credit-worthy potential borrowers that are currently not able to access loans because they do not have a formal salary. This scheme will include a housing guarantee mechanism for those with low incomes or employed in the informal sector to help expand access to housing finance. The launch of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company today therefore offers the housing finance market a credible, professional, and high-quality, large-scale, medium to long-term finance. Based on international experience, mortgage refinance facilities are generally owned by the banks or institutions which use it for refinancing. Our deliberate inclusion of SACCOs in the solution in Kenya is unique and would broaden the reach of housing finance to borrowers with low and informal incomes. The Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company will be expected to provide fixed rate, long-term, low-interest funding to primary mortgage lenders, which would be passed on to home buyers. Fixed-rate mortgages, I believe, would protect homeowners from the risk of interest rate volatility, hence allowing them to be in control of their monthly commitments and afford their homes. The Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company will also benefit the financial institutions by providing a liquidity backstop and facilitate a much greater level of maturity transformation. Indeed, the scheme will enable financial institutions to better leverage their deposit base for on-lending as mortgage loans. In order for this solution to be successful, primary mortgage lenders need to position themselves to provide more access to affordable mortgage finance. Equally important, developers too need to position themselves to supply innovative, but most importantly, affordable housing solutions. This not only allows the property market to function well, but it also stimulates demand at the lower end. And the end result, I believe, is a win-win for both government, the private sector, lenders, as well as developers. I wish at this point to thank the World Bank and the African Development Bank for agreeing to support this initiative of ours by committing Kenya shillings 25 billion and Kenya shillings 10 billion respectfully to this institution. And I am happy to say that the capitalization of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company has been finalized, as well as the development of the operational framework and the constitution of the board. The company is now ready to commence business, and therefore Kenyans can now count on us to deliver lower interest rates to finance acquisition of their homes. My administration's commitment to the people of Kenya, as enshrined in our Big Four, is steadfast and indeed on course. Every citizen deserves to live a dignified life that guarantees access to basic needs, provision of a decent shelter over their heads and their families being key to this. We expect the refinance company to significantly contribute to the development of the housing finance market in Kenya and help reverse the low mortgage penetration by increasing the number of mortgages available to our people. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the team at the National Treasury for working tirelessly to make this project a reality. I also want to thank once again the World Bank and the African Development Bank for providing technical as well as financial support to us. I also thank all the financial institutions that have graciously agreed to partner with the government as shareholders of the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company. With these few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my distinguished pleasure and privilege to declare the Kenya Mortgage Refinancing Company officially launched. Asanteni sana.
I'll request His Excellency kindly to press the buzzer on the right. Let's appreciate His Excellency the President. Let us appreciate. Thank you, Your Excellency. Asante.